So in the build-up to Casemiro's acrobatic finish, which gave United the lead inside 10 minutes away at Bournemouth on Saturday, we saw just why Christian Eriksen is so valuable to Ten Hag's side, and why United have struggled with his absence over the last few months. So here we see that United have settled possession in the middle third, with Bournemouth sitting off quite passively in their 4-4-2 defensive shape, with both their midfield and defensive lines sitting fairly deep, and so it was relatively easy for United to control possession. Because Bournemouth were defending in a front two with Solanke and Christie, Ten Hag's side dropped into a situational back three to give them a wider base to circulate the ball around the Bournemouth front line. But as usual, we would see variation in each player's positioning, with sometimes Luke Shaw holding a deeper position in the back three with Lindelof and Varane, with Eriksen able to then sit higher alongside Casemiro, or even in between the lines alongside Fernandes. But when Luke Shaw pushed forward, this would drag Bournemouth's right-sided midfielder David Brooks backwards, creating space wide of Bournemouth's front two for Eriksen to then drop into, as United shift to their primary middle third possession shape, which is a 3-1-6, with Casemiro the midfielder sitting in front of the back line, and Christian Eriksen in what you would probably refer to as a wide centre-back position in the back three, but what is probably more rightly described as a quarterback or a half-back position. But the reason why I like Christian Eriksen dropping into these sort of positions to get on the ball is because firstly it allows him the space to turn with the ball, with it unlikely that the opposition midfielder is going to push up from the midfield line to follow him and vacate that space centrally. But also because Eriksen alongside Fernandes is United's best progressive passer. As seen from his FBref reports this season in the Premier League, he ranks in the 93rd and 89th percentile respectively for his passes into the final third and his overall progressive passes, picking up 6.68 and 7.37 per 90 for each, whereas even if you look at Casemiro's numbers, you'll see he ranks slightly lower, around the 80th to 84th percentile for both. And just from the eye test, you can see that Eriksen is by far the more creative out of the two, and so when it comes to moving the ball forward, Eriksen is a player out of the two players who you would want to be trying to get on the ball more. Not just getting on the ball as well, but receiving the ball in space, where he can then look to open up passing lanes. And that's exactly what Eriksen does in the build up to this goal, drawing David Brooks into the press before having the composure to quickly shift his body positioning, wrong footing the Bournemouth man, and allowing the Dane that space to then burst past him, opening up the passing lane into Martial, who has made his signature movement dropping off from the forward line into the space behind the opposition's midfield line, and now Eriksen can move the ball into him. Now to be honest, Bournemouth's back line should do a lot better here. Senesi, the centre back, has to be following Martial's movement deep and get tight to him in order to stop him being able to turn. But just as Bournemouth were all game, they were incredibly passive as United moved the ball into their defensive third, and so Martial is simply able to turn and drive forward with the ball. Now Martial's forward pass is blocked, but Sancho does excellently to win the ball back before Bournemouth are able to establish possession after a turnover in their own half. And this is something that without doubt Sancho has to be doing more of. I often feel frustrated when I'm watching Sancho, particularly from a defensive point of view, as if he were to have the defensive work rate of players like Grealish or Bernardo Silva, or even Antony on the opposite side. I think that would go a long way to justifying his place in the team, as even when he's had a poor game, Antony will still do a disciplined job defensively in all thirds of the pitch, whereas Sancho's laid back approach is nowhere near as effective. But nevertheless, he does win the ball back here, and United are able to recalibrate their attack down the left side with Sancho and Shaw before the ball eventually falls back to Eriksen, this time on the border of the final third. And I think this is where Eriksen distinguishes himself from most other creative central midfielders in the Premier League. When compared against every other midfielder in the Premier League this season, Eriksen ranks in the high 80th percentiles for both his XG assisted and his key passes, as well as the 74th percentile for his passes into the penalty area. And so we can see clearly from a statistical point of view that Eriksen isn't just a deeper line midfielder who's going to assist you in moving the ball into the final third, but he's also a player that can create chances when he receives the ball in those positions as well. And when he does receive the ball here, you can see that even though he's not under a lot of pressure, there isn't an obvious passing lane open to get United in behind the Bournemouth back line and into a goal scoring position inside of the box. But Eriksen has the vision to see Casemiro making that run, bursting in behind the Bournemouth back line, which is pushing out. And from here, Eriksen goes with the only pass that he can really do, which is a kind of scoop dink over the back line. And despite one of the Bournemouth players almost making an interception, it knocks the ball up into the air, and Casemiro's acrobatic finish is absolutely spectacular. And Casemiro is one of those players that, despite being predominantly a defensive point for United in their system, I do think he has the ability to get forward and score more goals than he does. I think he scored 3 goals in the Premier League this season, as well as 1 in another competition, but he does have the ability, either in the air from crossing situations, or when he receives a ball on the edge in a shooting position, to really cause the opposition some trouble. And I do think he could be getting as many as 5, 6 or even 7 goals next season, if he is able to be given the freedom to occasionally make these sorts of bursting runs forward into the box, usually making a run from deep, so he is going to be unmarked. And when you've got players with the quality of Christian Eriksen in these positions, he is going to get these chances. But as I said before, I thought Christian Eriksen was the key to the build up for this goal, being involved in 2 crucial ways. Firstly, actually progressing the ball into the final third with his pass into Martial, but not even just that, but his movement past Brooks to create the passing lane in the first place, and then having the vision, weight and timing of the pass to find Casemiro, leading to his acrobatic finish, which is something that United have definitely missed, with Eriksen missing from the side and having to be replaced by the likes of Sabitzer or Fred, who just don't have his ball progressing or chance creating ability.